It's not replacing the subject matter expert. It's just making the subject matter expert better at what they do.
From EE Tech Media, this is Moore's Lobby, where engineers gather to talk all about circuits. I'm Dave Finch. Today in the lobby, I'm chatting with Microsoft US Chief Technology Officer Gina Loften about her numerous roles in leading the biggest companies to integrate the newest technologies. As Chief Technology Officer of Microsoft US, Gina Loften is an important arbiter of the next big tech as she draws on both her engineering experience and her executive-level innovation to help the largest organizations in the world adopt the most cutting-edge technologies. Gina's story is awesome. She started out like a lot of other engineers, deciding what interested her when she was quite young and then completing her undergrad in EE. Her early beginnings were in naval applications of sonar technology, which set her up very nicely to pursue leadership and then executive roles. Speaking of which, Gina was a technology executive for 25 years, over 2 decades at IBM. During this time, she brought IBM Watson public, which was a pretty huge deal, and she also ushered in the mass adoption ripple effect that led to in various unique industries. She now leads the charge as CTO of Microsoft. She's here to talk about her career and also her current projects at Microsoft, particularly AI on the Edge, an application that challenges everything from processing methodologies to memory architectures to power efficiencies. Gina, welcome to the lobby. You know, people who listen to the show know that I'm always fascinated by engineers who have found their way into positions of executive leadership, as opposed to executives, who have made their way into the C-suite from either a sales or a finance or operations background. And in your case, there's always been this underlying love of math and science that you used as a sort of navigational instrument in school and then later in your career.
Oh, absolutely. So I've always loved math and science. And so it was easy for me to decide I was going to be something in the STEM field. And originally it was going to be medicine. And then I, met my physics teacher in high school, and I loved physics. I loved the opportunity to make something real or to invent. And so as a part of that and the experiments that we did, my physics teacher introduced me to electrical engineering and the thought about being an electrical engineer. I met an astronaut that had gone to the college that I would ultimately choose. So I met Dr. Ronald McNair, and he had majored in physics at North Carolina A&T, and he was off to do amazing things in space. And so I got excited. I got excited about, wow, what engineers could do or what physicists could do. And so I was off from my journey at North Carolina School of Science and Math to major in electrical engineering at North Carolina A&T State University.
That's awesome. Isn't it great to just reflect on the role of teachers in helping us to find the things that light us up? Like they really are a great teacher really is the spark when you're bringing fuel to the table like you did.
That's exactly what happened. And they made it real. They made science real. They made it exciting, and it made it about doing something that might possibly change the world one day. And who wouldn't want to be a part of that, right?
Absolutely. What positions you for those earlier leadership roles at IBM? Because IBM seems so career ladderish, In other words, like I always imagine that it would take eons to work your way up to leadership positions at a company like this.
No, I started IBM after finishing my bachelor's degree, but I worked at IBM all through college. And so by the time I graduated, I thought I was already an engineer, right? Because I had, the cool thing about being on summer internships and co-op assignments is that you get to do real stuff, right? You're not just a student. They give you real projects. And so by the time I graduated and started at IBM, I was ready to take on big projects. And I started in the federal business and on projects for fast attack submarines. And I was just amazed by the trust that was given to me as a young engineer to do things on something so mission critical. And so I was excited about being a part of something special and doing the trainer systems for fast attack submarines and helping to go to the naval bases and training the sailors on the sonar systems that we were building, because they were going to go out and do things to protect our nation. And so having that opportunity as an engineer to do something in mission critical environments really started my journey that took me to engineering and research and ultimately consulting, but to think through what's next. Because I started in looking at underwater acoustics and how that you can take that underwater acoustics and understanding what the bad guys out there were doing. And so I just perpetuated that as a part of my thinking in my career, is thinking about what's next and how your view of what's next is going to help you impact positively mission critical areas. First, it was federal, then it turned out to be, state and local government or education or healthcare. But it's certainly something that, I've been a part of it throughout my career.
Well, and clearly you had earned your team's trust, right? Which is really saying something, because the systems, the technology systems that you were involved with are these massively complex, sophisticated things. And I would imagine that for you, a huge character asset or set of assets would be your abilities around like critical thinking and system level thinking. So not only at the atomic level, but the overarching sort of theme of the system. In fact, doesn't IBM emboss the word "think" onto their company pencils and stationery and stuff?
Absolutely. So you have Think Academy. One of the cool things is when I first joined is, I had an academy around systems engineering, and it really taught you to think through big, complex problems. And it's a way of thinking that I've leveraged throughout my career, is how do you approach something big and complex and break it down into something real and something discrete parts that you can add value to and make progress on, and understanding how to take that problem and now move that science to real life in solving that real life problem. So absolutely, thinking is a great thing that you learn how to do. Critical thinking in engineering school can take you throughout a whole career, which I've found.
This portion of Moore's Lobby is brought to you by EBV. Techies, watch out. EBV's new podcast, Passion for Technology, is dedicated to the latest technologies, trends, and applications in the electronics industry. Listen to their latest episode with Infineon, which is all about silicon carbide and gallium nitride, and how to reduce system costs with these components. Tune in now and dive in to the world of semiconductors. Okay, we are back with Gina Loften, Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft US. Gina, as you were beginning to take on more leadership responsibility at Microsoft and then before that at IBM, was it easy for you to navigate the social terrain of career growth? Because at the risk of generalizing, we engineers are not always known for, we'll say, our social savvy. Follow me?
Yeah, absolutely. And, so one of the things as I started my engineering career, I thought people that were in management were people who just couldn't be great engineers, right? Until I got my first taste of what it was like to be the lead engineer. And now being an individual contributor or just your contributions aren't as important as the team's contributions. And I started to be able to learn and think about what it felt like to get things done through others and what it felt like to deliver impact at a larger and larger scale, not just from my own subject matter expertise, but watching a team's expertise grow. And that was the impetus for me to move into first a leadership role and then to a management role and then to an executive role, is really understanding, one, taking that great risk and that great responsibility to say, I want to be accountable for someone else's career. And I want to help somebody else grow. It's not just about my growth, it's about our growth. And that was a pivotal point in my career that took me from an engineer to an engineering manager to a technology executive, right? Is to begin to think about the impact that we can make, not just the impact I can make. And, you know, you said it right. Sometimes the socialization of us engineers, maybe it's not what people would see in other fields, but we know how to get together and think through big problems. So we know how to get together and think about impacts that we can make. And what I can make as one engineer is not as great as 10 of us or 100 of us or 1,000 of us. And just imagine if we can find common ground and common purpose on solving big problems together. I just got excited about the impact that leadership could make. And I begin to now focus as much on my non-engineering skills, so my leadership skills, my softer skills, if you might think about them, in coaching and developing and negotiating and risk-taking, those skills, and, you know, married with or accompanied by my technical skills and how much impact that could make as a leader. And never look back, right? You know, I became a manager about 3 years into my career, and I've been in a leadership role, you know, for the past 27 years. So, you know, there's something to love about making sure that you, not just you, but the team around you, be able to have a journey where they can be their best self, they can grow, they can contribute, and they can deliver great things and great impact, not just to the company, but to the customers that we are privileged to serve.
Man, Microsoft did so well when they hired you. What precipitated that move from IBM to Microsoft for you? Like, there must have been, you know, to be at IBM and doing great there must have been something really attractive about Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, I joined IBM at the time where it was big hardware and software and very little services. And I had gone on a journey with the company saying, being customer facing and customer centric and learning how to be essential to enterprise customers took that company on a journey till it was more than 50 or 60% of the business and employees were services when I left. And then what excited me about Microsoft was that Microsoft felt very home and very familiar from day one. It was like the company I joined, very imminent in the marketplace in the software and hardware that we bring to the marketplace. And then on a journey of being very essential with customers in saying, now we're going to help you understand how to apply that hardware and that software on your digital transformation journey, on thinking about how you become a resilient enterprise in your industry. And so since I had been on that journey and know a lot about enterprise customers across multiple industries, coming over to Microsoft and applying all of what I'd learned and the expertise that I had gained throughout those years in making our customers, Microsoft customers, being able to leverage that understanding of technology and be on a path of digital transformation in their enterprises was exciting to me. To put to the test everything that I've learned, and then certainly be a part of an organization with world-class technologies and world-class research organizations, and knowing how that partnership can change a company's trajectory was exciting to be a part of that. And of course, as a woman in tech, who wouldn't want on their resume two of the biggest tech giants on the planet? And having to have the privilege of served as an executive in this industry with two, very fine institutions.
Two amazing points you just made, and I want to unpack both of them. So, we'll do the first one now, and then we'll talk about the second one after our break. The first one is, how can our leaders build more equitable, we'll say safer workplaces that encourage contributors to make themselves, seen and heard, part of the team, without crossing the line into, we'll say, savior complex territory?
Yeah. So, one of the things I say, and as I coach women, is I say, step out and raise your hand, be a voice. And sometimes it takes a little longer to be confident, but know that the skills that you came to the table with are as is what you need to be successful. And don't wait until you've done something 5 times or 10 times. Do just like that behavior you described and say, be courageous enough and say, I'll give it a try. And that's one of the things that I've modeled to the women who look to me. And I modeled this in my career. I raised my hand for things I had to go figure out how to do. Right. And the amazing thing about it is, you're smart, you'll figure it out, and you can come up with amazing things, but you have to trust yourself and to step out and create opportunities for yourself. But then, as you said, what can we do as an organization or as a culture to make it a safe space for people to feel like that they can take a risk and take a chance and take an opportunity? I think it's important to coach and mentor leaders of all kinds, right? So not just women, but to make sure that we're creating a safe space that says people can step out and say, this is a place where I get to learn and I get to grow. And, one mistake is not going to be fatal for my career. And you'll see more people being willing to step out. Representation matters. So more women in the workplace succeeding helps encourage people to say, wow, it's possible here. And also making sure that you are, as leaders in the organization, not just waiting for the person to volunteer, actually reaching out and reaching into your organization and giving people an opportunity to be visible, to take on creative opportunities to grow their careers, to take risks, to take rotational assignments, to do something different, because we as leaders know what it takes to have a broad range of expertise. So helping them think through that maybe it's time to leave software and do a rotational assignment in hardware, or maybe it's time to go to research and help apply research in a different way. Or maybe, like some of my mentors and coaches did, say, hey, you've been doing this great job in development. Now it's time to go to services and take a rotational assignment to be client facing, because it's going to be important to be able to have these conversations about technology with C-suite leaders. And then so having a team that says, we understand what it takes to be successful. Let's create programs or a process or a view of a roadmap of what kind of expertise and skills that you're going to want, and encourage people to take those opportunities. And what I call it with my mentors, pushing the birdies out of the nest, pushing them out of their comfort zone and telling them it's time to, I know you're great here, but it's time to do something else and find out how much more great you can be somewhere else.
God, I wish I had more leaders like you who were true leaders throughout my career. Hey everybody, it's Dave again. This portion of Moore's Lobby is brought to you by Future Electronics. As a leading supplier of semiconductor solutions, Renesas Electronics has a full MCU lineup, including the easy-to-design RA series with full partner ecosystem that will help speed development of IoT applications with core technologies like safety, security, HMI, and connectivity. Designing with RA MCUs makes it easy to develop IoT endpoint and edge devices for many industrial and home appliance applications. To find out more about the RA family of products and how they fit your design needs, visit futureelectronics.com. All right, we are back with the amazing, inspiring role model of role models, Microsoft's Gina Loften. You know, Gina, your vision for what's next, what's viable, what's likely going to be transformational for industries is quite astounding. What do you think it is about you, your character, your perspective, that makes you such a reliable window into these future technologies and helping to make them accessible and scalable for your customers and partners?
Yeah, I think at first it was the necessity in my career. So I started my career, as I told you, in Navy systems, and I was pretty much an expert in underwater acoustics. And guess what? My company sold off the division. and so I was a part of a merger and acquisition early in my career. Actually, I was 18 months in, and they, IBM sold off my division to another company. We became L'Oreal, then we became a part of Lockheed Martin. And I said, what? And nobody asked me. Nobody asked me if this was okay. And so yeah, how dare they? And so I began to think about, wow, okay, so what do I do now? And I stayed for 2 years doing some great, amazing things in Navy systems. But then I said, but they took the decision out of my hand. I really wanted to work for IBM, so I'm going to go back. And now underwater acoustics is not what they need. They need somebody in networking hardware. And so I became an expert in networking hardware, and I worked in the area of routers, switches, hubs, and concentrators. And I went off to be a manager in our networking hardware division. And then I was in networking software, and I was like, oh, okay. So I learned from that is you always want to be thinking about what's next before someone around you makes a decision that affects you that you're not happy with. And so I began to be on a journey to be thinking about, wow, I really like my career from this point forward to be about emerging technologies. I want to be the ones that think about what can be disruptive or complementary to our technical strategies. What are the things that could be? So, going into networking, and at that point in time, was an Ethernet and token ring. And then I started thinking about ATM technologies. And then I said, what are the things that we want to do in terms of devices? So, going into servers and moving forward to what would become cloud computing. And then from cloud computing, moving into what would become our data and analytics and artificial intelligence portfolio. And now today, looking at what is it to now take AI and move it from the cloud to the edge to more smarter devices and more intelligent devices and more autonomous systems. And so my career is about thinking about what's next, what's around the corner, and how can it impact you now, and how to help companies think about how it's going to be, again, complementary or disruptive to what they're planning for their company's future. And so, so this was born out of, hey, I'm not going to let it happen to me. Maybe I should be a part of it happening. Maybe I should be a part of those strategic conversations about what's next, so that I can have a look around the corner, or maybe even decide what corner we should be looking around, to be able to grow our company's future and to be a big a part of helping our customers define and be successful in their futures.
Speaking about being part of what's next, years ago, you headed up the public applications sector for Watson, IBM Watson, which at the time was, this major win for building excitement around and use cases around artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I was actually the first global public sector leader for Watson, and that was the responsibility for taking what was a research project and making it real, and seeing that it could do something other than beat Jeopardy. It could make real impact in industries. And to safe to say, we've proven that in the impact that it had in healthcare and in government and in education. And now, if I look across the industry and what not only IBM but other companies like Microsoft is doing, is showing that how AI can make real the advances and insights necessary to make industries and companies in industries work better and deliver better outcomes to their ecosystem, whether it be their customers or their patients, or whatever their ecosystem requires.
Right. So perceiving artificial intelligence not as a hard replacement for human experience and decision making, but rather as a complement to their personal expertise and experiences.
Absolutely. So I always tell people, think of that as an assistant or an advisor. Imagine if you are with the top oncologist in the world, and this person never sleeps, never gets tired, never asks for a raise, and they can consume more knowledge than anything and assist you on a diagnosis. That's how we should be thinking about using AI. It's the best assistant or advisor that a subject matter expert could have, but it's not replacing the subject matter expert. It's just making the subject matter expert better at what they do and being able to make decisions with more data than a human could consume or review. And then now the human in the loop gets to make that best decision that serves that patient, and create a better diagnosis because it is informed by the most data possible.
Yes, that brilliantly stated. AI is sort of the cape that makes the superhero capable of doing extraordinary things.
Right. Or if we're thinking about, since, I'm a woman in tech, the lasso, the bracelets, we'll
That's right.
we'll have to put the context of the superhero being Wonder Woman.
With today's fast pace of innovation, the need to accelerate time to market without compromising on security and connectivity is the main driver for developers. The RA family of MCUs from Renesas Electronics are based on the powerful and energy-efficient ARM Cortex-M core processors to help accelerate your designs. This family of MCUs is PSA certified, allowing engineers to improve security and safety in devices. The RA family boosts Renesas' well-established 32-bit MCU lineup, supported by comprehensive software and hardware blocks that work out of the box, in addition to its flexible software package, or FSP, to provide a gateway to building secure and connected IoT devices. To find out more about the RA family of products and how they fit your design needs, visit futureelectronics.com. All right, we're back. It's Moore's Lobby. I'm here with Gina Loften, CTO at Microsoft US, and we have just a few minutes left with my new superhero. So let's talk about AI now from the engineer's perspective. What I know about artificial intelligence is that in order for it to be fully realized, especially within the context of the Internet of Things, we want to start addressing intelligence beyond the data center. So out at the edge of the IoT. What's your take on this?
Well, yeah, this is something exciting going on at Microsoft. I think, quite, unabashedly, that we are the leader there. Hey, willing to debate that with anyone. But I think this is an important part for organizations across any industry. But I pay a lot of attention to two industries where AI at the edge is going to really mean the success and the acceleration of success in that business, and then retail and healthcare. And the reason I think AI at the edge is so super important is now think about where we are in the world, and we've had a proliferation of connected devices. And now we need those devices to be intelligent devices. And with the notion of intelligent devices, that means you can do processing of information that you capture at the edge. You don't have to send all of that information back to the cloud. You're now being able to have the bandwidth and the reliability and the sensing in the devices, and in importance, the intelligence in those devices to now garner insights that are going to be important, because the next step after connected devices and intelligent devices is our autonomous systems. And to be able to have that intelligence to create devices that work together and create insights that can be used for C-suite leaders to make decisions for their ecosystems, to understand the information and how those decisions were made, so people can trust those autonomous systems that we're going to build with those intelligent devices. And so I think it's going to be important in every industry, but I'm spending a lot of time now looking at retail and healthcare to say, how can that improve the experience for shoppers? How can that improve the experience for patients and driving better patient outcomes? So that's critically important to, I think, what's next.
What problems need to be solved now to get us there?
Yeah, so I think some of the problems that need to be solved is one, around security and privacy, because in order for us to be able to have those effective intelligence devices, we need to get very crisp and clear on how do we capture people's data, how do we protect people's data so that we can create the insights that drive these organizations in a way that is trusted and that provides the right kind of information for decision making. And so security and privacy is tantamount to all of these systems, especially if we're going to go to more intelligent and autonomous systems. And trust in that we understand what data to collect, and that we understand the bias that could be in data, and that we have that right algorithms to work through that. So the work that we're doing with ethical AI, super important to be able to now have these autonomous systems that are going to provide positive impact and mission critical impact in a way that the information is trusted. And then certainly the ability to work across multiple systems. We are going to have to work across the technology industry while we are working with our solutions, that we're going to be working with our competitors' solutions. And so it's more of cooperation than competition in order to make sure that we're creating systems that are doing what's best for patients or retailers or oil and gas or whatever the industry is, and that we're creating these systems that are going to provide that greater insight and impact.
See, this is interesting, because what I'm hearing is, in order for you, Microsoft, to be successful, in a way, you kind of need your competitors to also be successful, because we're talking about things like healthcare, real human impact issues.
Absolutely. And we lead in making sure that we're working across the entire industry and making sure that those advances are the kind of advances that provide impact to people, right? It's not just about whether or not they're using our technology. It's really to make sure that, are we looking at how we're evolving that technology in a way that's providing the best outcomes for the customers that we get to be a trusted advisor to, and enterprises that we get to help accelerate their success through technology.
I think a lot of engineers would aspire to work at a company like Microsoft, like IBM. If you could scribble some wisdom onto parchment and float it out to the sea of young engineers in a sealed bottle, what what might you say to them?
Well, look, I mean, I have been on a journey in tech for now nearly 30 years. And so, to my fellow engineers out there, I hope you are enjoying your journey in tech. I hope you know the important part and role that we engineers play in making mission critical systems around this world impact lives in a very positive way. And enjoy what you do. Know that it's important, that it's special. And if you're not feeling like it's important and special, find something important and special to do, because this world doesn't work without engineers.
All right, thank you, Gina Loften, for making time to chat with me today in the lobby. Be sure to subscribe to Moore's Lobby on any of the major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, to enjoy new episodes every 2 weeks with industry experts from world-renowned companies who join us to chat about leading-edge technology and engineering topics. You can also follow us and catch prior episodes on allaboutscircuits.com. Thanks for listening.